Well, hello, this is Ron. I own a company called Sandcar Services, and I'm an all-around repair shop for sandrails now only. No longer have the automotive side of my business. I just strictly focus on off-road vehicles, primarily sandrails. And I build a lot of Mendeola transmissions, and I am building an S4 to replace the 2D that is coming out of my Tatum for this teardown for this season. I thought I would share some of the differences between the two. So let's do some noting on size first, because everybody knows that size does matter, right? So here is the pinion shaft for my S4. This is a pinion shaft. It's a defective pinion shaft, but this is a pinion shaft out of a 2D. So this is a Mendeola 2D pinion shaft, and this is an S4 pinion shaft. And just to give you kind of a comparison, because I know a lot of people don't really do this, but just to show you, we're talking basically 1.5 inches, which is that much larger. So if you go down, this is measuring out a little bit larger than 1.25 inches. So there's a 1/4 inch thicker shaft. It's a longer shaft. Instead of the preload nut being up here right behind the pinion head for the bearings on the 2D, these transaxles were designed, I think similar to an F1 car, as Ian had said, for quick change gears. So you can do a gear swap on these without having to press out the, oh, I didn't bring that in here, but I don't need it for this build, but the actual assembly that goes on this pinion for the bearings for the preload, instead of the tightening being done up here next to the bearing, it's actually done all the way up here. One of the other things that they changed when they did the upgrade is they went from a 3/4-16 thread pitch on the pinion, forward pinion nut, the jam nut section, and they went all the way up to almost 1.25 inches. So much more massive. Give me just a second to turn my micrometer off. So the other massive difference that you're going to see is sheer size. So this is the spider gear. Now everything on the right hand side is Mendeola 2D, and all of this is the S4. So if you look at the spider side gears, this is the spider gear that drops down in here, and this is what drives your drive flange for your CV. If you look at the difference between it and the S4 2D, I mean, it is just night and day how much bigger it is. Same thing with the smaller spiders. If you put them next to the S4, they're way larger. Just absolutely massive. So that's one of the upgrades that comes with having an S4 diff. Now, fun fact that I'll let everybody in on. The 2D diff carrier, which is this piece right here, and the S4 diff carrier are interchangeable. There are a couple things you have to do, but the common denominator between the S4 and the 2D is the differential. If you want 930 drive flanges, because when you buy an S4, unless it's got a PBS drive flange on it, like I'm going to be putting into mine, it's going to have 934 drive flanges. And if you want to put an S4 in a car that has 930s, the best thing to do is purchase a 2D differential and 2D side covers for the flanges, and you literally can just put the 2D diff into the S4 and have 930 drive flanges. You'll have the smaller spider gears, but you'll have 930 drive flanges, and you'll have a diff that's as strong as a 2D. One of the other fun facts that I don't think can be disputed is both the S4 and the 2D both run a 10-inch ring and pinion. Now, if you look at these two side by side, I will take and put my brand new ring gear next to this used. It's actually good condition, but this is a used ring gear. Sorry, I was thinking of something else. A used ring gear. If you look, you can see how much wider the tooth pattern is on the newer Weddell racing gears versus the older gears. But they are the same diameter. They're both 10-inch ring gears on an S4. When you go to an S4D or an S5D, they made the differential ring gear an 1.5 inch larger, so it's an 11.5-inch ring gear instead of a 10-inch. The one thing I am doing on mine is I am taking the grade 8 hardware that they sent with the transaxle kit. This was a brand new transaxle that I ordered from Weddell, 2023 S4 Gen 3, and I am going to be putting ARP ring gear bolts in there. Have a lot less chance of shearing one of these off. Some of you have probably at some point in your sandrail career sheared bolts off of a ring gear for one reason or another. The ARP bolts are really good at keeping that from happening. One of the other fun facts that I love to bring up is the bearing kit for the side of the diff are the same bearings in an S4 as they are on a 2D. Same exact bearings. I believe these are landing gear bearings for an F-14 airplane or something along those lines. I haven't personally put them in an airplane, so I don't know, but a buddy of mine, Ian, had told me that that's basically what those are, which is why they rarely ever go bad unless somebody does something crazy like not put oil in the tranny or keep driving it with debris floating around. It's about the only time I ever see them go bad. But the other notable improvement is the actual center carrier that centers the pins on the spiders is a lot smaller on the 2D than it is on the S4. Now, my personal opinion, my opinion only, I like the way the 2D did their pins. So the way that they set these rods so that they don't fall out is there's a hole in the end of these rods. See that hole? And this pin fits in that hole. Well, what happens is when you slide that rod through here, through the gears, you literally take the pin and you drop it in. And then there's a housing that goes on here with a bearing that pins all this down, so it can't fall out. The only issue I have with this right here, and I haven't been around them long enough to see how many of them have ever had it happen, is that they use a bolt that goes down to hold the pin in place, and there's a possibility for that to fall out if it's not done right. But we're up on time, so I gotta go. Ron with Sandcar Services, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, give me a holler.